We have a very short panel discussion about Ecosummit Stockholm. I call on stage Adam, Juliane, and Chris. I will be sitting here. This is for you, Adam, Juliane, and Chris. Okay.
What a nice picture.
Exactly, yeah. We got it from the city of Stockholm, who are one of our partners.
Yes.
They have a very nice website where if you want to do an event in Stockholm, you can just download nice photos from the city, and you don't have to go there and take your own photos. Really convenient. So you are living in Stockholm. This is Adam Kostyál of Nasdaq.
Yes.
Juliane Schulze of Vattenfall, replacing Claus Wattendrup. And Christopher Waldén of Swedish Energy Agency. It so happens that these three companies already committed as a sponsor supporting our first event in Stockholm. And because you are living there, tell us a little bit about the city and what is so special about it.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, to put it in context, in 2008, Nasdaq acquired pretty much all the Nordic exchanges except for the Norwegian exchange. So I head up the listing business there since 2012. And how is it living in Stockholm? Well, it's getting more and more international. This summit here is very much in the right context of what Stockholm is about. Clean tech, energy, focus, and so on is high on the agenda. And I head up the listing business, and I have a slot later on to talk about that. And we see this sector moving more and more actively to the exchange, the Nasdaq Stockholm exchange. And it's a very dynamic sector that we're seeing develop on the exchange. So I'll talk a bit about that later on, but it's a fantastic event to be a part of, and great that you will be in Stockholm, and you will be at Nasdaq Stockholm. Yeah. Which is also even more fantastic for us.
Tell us about the location, what you have there. You have an auditorium.
It's
quite big.
It's going to be very similar to this. We have to get a bit more plans, but it's going to be very similar to this. And we're trying to, by being here today, I'm getting the feel of what the event is about, and we'll make sure to make it even better together with you at Nasdaq Stockholm in September.
Yeah. How many IPOs do you celebrate in this location on average per year?
Well, listen, this week 6. So the market is on fire. And the interesting thing is that out of the last 300 IPOs that we have done, and we're talking about the last 4 or 5 years here, 90% have been lower than 600 million euros in size. So really, this is a market for SMEs. And really what this is, growth companies looking to raise capital through the exchange. And we've managed to create an ecosystem supporting these smaller companies. So already this year, 36 companies, 26 of them are growth markets, Nasdaq First North, which I will talk a bit more, raising 180 million euro. And we're expecting 30 more before the mid-June. So by September, we will be close to 80, 90 companies, new companies on the exchange. Yeah. And last year was 94 listings. So it's, it's great to see that it's not only large companies, but it's also small companies that can leverage the exchange, which is something, I was talking to people during the lunch. It's not happening in Europe.
Yeah, cool. Juliane, you work as a German for a big Swedish company. Tell us a little bit about your experience with the Swedish people and with your visits to Stockholm, and why you think it's a good idea for Ecosummit to go there.
Well, let me tell you a little story from Stockholm. When I was living there 2010, actually. I was there for 3 months, and I remember very, very clear in my head that I found it very weird how people actually sit in the train doing this all the time. Yeah, or like this all the time, because it was totally not common in Berlin. And I think it was half a year later, 2011, when here in Berlin people really started using smartphones actively, and you saw it more often. I think at that time we were reading newspapers or actually reading books here in Berlin still. So my feeling all the time was, please correct me if I'm wrong, that the Swedish culture and Swedish society is even more open to these new technologies when it comes to mobile and when it comes to digital appliances. So I think for startups it's a great playing field to test their products, their business models in this market with these open customers. Yeah? Also talking about data privacy, data ownership. Swedish people are just more open to that. And then obviously I'm happy as a Swedish company, Swedish state-owned company, that we are part of the Ecosummit in Stockholm.
Chris, you represent the Swedish Energy Agency and you have a really large portfolio of Swedish energy startups. How come that there are so many entrepreneurs and good startups in your country? What is the reason for it?
Ooh.
Difficult question, sorry.
What a big question. Thank you for that. Nowhere. I mean, you mentioned that we're a tech country, and I read somewhere that Swedes have 1.5 mobile phones each, which is a strange number. Anyways, the home of big companies from the music industry, gaming industry. They've made a lot of money. There's money coming back into Sweden, which creates a lot of noise, and a lot of eyes are on Sweden, Stockholm right now. Unicorn capital of Europe, Silicon, Stockholm, whatever. Why that is, it has to do with money, I'm sure.
You have a lot of capital in Sweden. It's a pretty rich country. I understand alcohol is quite expensive.
Sorry, maybe adding to that, I think when you're an entrepreneur in Sweden, well, you don't have so many inhabitants, right? It's quite a limited market. So I think when you're setting up a company, you think in a very early stage how to scale your business model also across different countries, across Europe, at least probably globally. So I think the chances are just higher because the mindset is different. Being an entrepreneur in Stockholm or being an entrepreneur in Berlin, where you have an 18 million people market just around you.
Yeah, and I think companies like Ericsson and the whole mindset of the government has always been to make sure that everyone has equal access to everything. So Ericsson, has built the whole telecom infrastructure in Sweden from early days at a very high level. Everyone has access to fiber at a very high level into the house. It's a given. When everybody was auctioning out these licenses in Europe, in Sweden they took a reverse approach where they said that whoever took on these licenses had to make sure that everybody had equal access to fiber. And I think these are the core of, in terms of building that infrastructure. Right or wrong, it's been successful from this perspective because everyone has access to a common infrastructure. Telecom is a part of the DNA. And when we talk about IPOs and so on, it's interesting. 80% of the population in Sweden owns shares in some form, and in the rest of Europe it's very different. So here you have almost like a crowdfunding mentality on the exchange, people wanting to invest in companies. And the trend, even on a global level, of course, is that you want to invest in something that is impacting, the future. You want to invest in Tesla, you want to invest in SolarCity, you want to invest in companies that are making a difference. So companies in this sector are getting very interesting support. And then from a governmental point of view, we've always had a very eco-friendly mentality. Everything from Vattenfall that, at least in the Nordics, is very much driven by water power and so on. And it's part of the DNA.
When I go to Stockholm, I'm always surprised that there are very many organizations with public money helping startups. It almost feels like a competition among them. What do you think, Chris, is the reason that there is so much public support? Tillväxtverket, you guys, Vinnova, Invest Stockholm, more local group of people, and then a few more. What is the reason that you have so many organizations helping startups in the early stage, accelerating and growing faster and really going into business?
I mean, the reason for that, I would say, is that you were mentioning that it's a small market. We need a lot of government funding to get the companies to grow and to get the companies outside of Sweden to find that big market. And that's the reason why we've been supporters of Ecosummit for many years now, and we're here with 5 fantastic companies who will be pitching later on this afternoon. And we've been supporters of Ecosummit London and finally Ecosummit Stockholm.
Yeah.
So we're proud of that.
Yeah. And we have a little bit of news because we are supported until this morning by 6 sponsors already. Swedish Energy Agency, you guys, Nasdaq, Vattenfall, Investor Stockholm. Janie, she's unfortunately ill and can't join today. But then we have Statkraft Ventures and Shell Technology Ventures. And the new one today is Eneco. Yeah, Eneco will also be at Ecosummit Stockholm. So who wants to come to Stockholm? Please raise a hand. Okay, I think this is going to be a really successful event.
It's a great time of the year because it's not snowy and dark at that time. So.
And have you been to Artipelag?
Well, you know, Artipelag, yeah. Well, I know Artipelag, the museum.
This is where the it's an event location outside in the archipelago.
It's fantastic.
We go there by boat for our sponsor dinner. So if you want to go to this location,
even as a Swede living in Stockholm, it's something that it's a unique experience.
Cool. Okay, thank you very much. This was a very short preview of Ecosummit Stockholm. Big round of applause. Thank you.